Welcome to the IDP show. I'm your host, Josh Raymer, joined in the Sode Shack tonight. On my right, Adam Markham. Addy, how are you, home?
Doing very well, Josh. How are you, my friend?
Well, I got a giant tree down out in the yard, probably about 50, 60 yards that way. Funny story was, this happened Friday. Friday we had a lot of high winds. We were under a tornado watch and a warning at some point. And there was a lot of people, triggered because of the storms that we had a couple of years ago. So I even get a little gun shy now. And so we had Pax home with Allie. They were watching TV, hanging out in the living room. I was doing the dishes. I got these amazing noise canceling headphones for Christmas. And I've always been like, why do you really need really expensive headphones guy? And then I got really expensive headphones, and I'm like, oh boy, these are really nice. But the thing is, when I put them on, literally can't hear a thing. So this tree falls, and Allie said it shook the floor of the house. Like they thought something had blown up under the crawl space. And then she comes running around the corner, and she's like clapping her hands, trying to get my attention. She's like, did you just hear that? And I was like, no, these things are amazing. I cannot hear a thing.
Pretty good bass too.
Amazing.
You probably just thought it was the bass.
I thought it was I thought the bass had dropped. Yeah. So I was doing the dishes. I was jamming. I was having a great time. And then, we have a tree fall in the yard. So got limbs everywhere. A lot of cleanup going on right now in Bowling Green, but happy to be back in the Sode Shack, Addy.
It was a wild day.
Wild day.
Yeah. I've never experienced a day like that where it was just wind nonstop, like 70-mile-an-hour wind for like the entire day.
The entire day. So when we were watching to see, because it took us a while to figure out what that big loud boom was, and we looked out the back door and we finally saw the tree had fallen down. And as we were watching and looking at that tree, the tree in our neighbor's yard fell down. So it was apocalyptic. I mean, the trees start swaying, it's up over your roof, and you're getting nervous. So if you're wondering why Bobo's not here tonight, that's why. The man works in insurance, and I'd say they have about 200 claims coming across his desk right now.
Yeah, I may not see Bobby for the rest of the offseason.
Well, that was like when we had the hailstorm. I think it was in 96 or 98.
Yeah.
My dad worked in claims, and legitimately like 14, 15-hour days for like 3 straight months, trying to pick up the pieces from that hailstorm.
Yeah,
so
everyone got new roofs. Everyone got new cars.
Oh yeah. There were tons of power lines down. I think there's still people without power. My in-laws still don't have power.
Yeah.
So it
was a bad scene. Luckily it wasn't, I don't think we had many people.
No, I don't think anyone was like injured or killed.
Hurt,
at least in Warren County. So, but thankful to be here. Thankful to be talking football. And it was a nice distraction, Addy. We had the 2023 NFL Combine going on in Indianapolis. We were glad to see it back in Indy. We hope to get up there someday and kind of hobnob and rub elbows with the movers and shakers up there on
We got to do it.
Radio Row. I think that'd be a lot of fun. We just need to hit up Greg Rosenthal to help get us the connect.
Just 3.5 hours from here, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Indy's a great town.
Great town. We make that drive probably about once a year to go see a Colts game. So we will make it up to the Combine at some point, but did enjoy watching the Combine. We had the coverage on in the house. It was a beautiful weekend, so we got the TV going out on the patio, watching these grown men and tight-fitting spandex running 40-yard dashes. Made me laugh thinking about Chris Jones, of course, famously his Combine. I found the original YouTube clip, and they didn't realize when they went back to the replay and he was laying on the ground and stood up that his dong was hanging out. Mm-hmm. So I love the awkward kind of announcers trying to quickly move away from the fact that Chris Jones' dong fell out.
Shout out to Chris Jones for persevering through all that.
Truly.
Having it out there for everyone to see.
Yep.
Didn't let it bother him at all.
Just kept right on moving.
Became one of the most prolific interior defensive linemen in the league. You wonder if it was maybe because of that.
Was that the catalyst that launched him to superstardom, multi-million-dollar contracts?
I feel like that took him up another level.
I think it did. Good for you, Chris Jones. But it was fun. I watched the quarterbacks pretty closely because I think Indy is going to be in the mix. Came away very impressed with C.J. Stroud. I'm on the Stroud train now.
Even at 101?
Even at 101. I am curious with the Anthony Richardson hype if we could see this guy go inside the top 3.
Yeah, I think so.
what team trades up to 1, who is the quarterback that they're targeting. But my thing is, if you love CJ Stroud, Chris Ballard, Shane Steichen, Jim Irsay, trade up to 1 and get the guy you want. Because if you sit around and wait at 4 and just think the guy is going to fall to you, it's not going to happen.
Isn't it funny, though, kind of how everything flipped? Like it was Bryce Young.
Bryce Young. And I have heard rumblings that Bryce Young still could go number 1.
Yeah. And now it's kind of like Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud.
Yep. They definitely won the weekend because of the workouts.
So you think you'll have to trade up to 101? Or you think you're going to do that?
I think if we fall in love with one of these top 2 guys, I think if they fall in love with Young or Stroud, I think they will make a move up to 1. But it depends on, what if the Texans go up to 1? Then I think we could go up to 2.
Yeah.
So it really just depends on who's going up to 1. What quarterback are they linked to? Who do they like? That's what you've heard, teams like the Detroit Lions or the Seahawks for Anthony Richardson because they have the established starter in place. I've heard Will Levis for the Raiders a lot, even though there's rumblings now that Rodgers could go to Las Vegas.
Well, that'd probably be an ideal situation for someone like Levis, sit behind Rodgers.
Sit behind Rodgers, and then rumblings that Brady could unretire and go to Miami.
Yeah. It's a wild quarterback.
Wild time of year. Derek Carr signing with the Saints, which just made a ton of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that was weird.
Because I think Dennis Allen was the coach there when they drafted David
They
Carr.
gave him a ton of money.
It's like that's what Sig was pointing out on Twitter, trying to get to the bottom of like who were they bidding against?
Yeah.
Like what was the other team? It never
maybe the Jets, but I mean
I think the Jets truly were waiting to hear from Rodgers, thinking that Carr was going to be their backup plan. I think Rodgers strung him along. I don't think the Panthers ever got that serious to make a contract offer, but Nick Underhill, who covers the Saints, said that there was another team that offered more money than what the Saints were willing to give. So I would love to know who that team is.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you think that moves the needle much for the Saints?
I mean, I think it keeps them in the 9-8, 10-7 mix. They probably win the South at this point. I mean, they got the best quarterback far and away, at least right now.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. Carr couldn't get it done with Devontae Adams, Renfro.
Yeah.
Waller was banged up a lot, I know. But
still, you had one of
Josh
the
Jacobs.
best receivers in the league.
The defense wasn't terrible.
It wasn't terrible. It was better than I think people expected.
Yeah.
So
kind of an odd move.
Yeah, I think they were just, new regime, McDaniels and Ziegler. I think they just wanted to give Carr a chance because they backed into the playoffs with the interim coach there. And so they couldn't come in and jettison this guy right away. I think they had to give Carr his fair shake to keep the job. And it didn't happen. So now he's with the New Orleans Saints. So I think the carousel is just going to keep spinning. I think Rodgers is going somewhere else. The rumblings out of Green Bay are, we want this guy gone. Get him out of here. We're ready for Jordan Love.
Good for Jordan Love.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, the glimpses we've seen of Jordan Love are pretty exciting. Yeah. Sounds like Purdy could be out anywhere from 6 to 12 months, so it may be Trey Lance season.
Still hadn't had surgery.
And the doctors I saw are going to determine, is it a repair or a restoration? Because if it's a restoration, that's a 1-year timeline.
Wow.
So he would be out basically until next offseason.
Fingers crossed for the restoration, Trey Lance Truthers.
Let's restore it. Let's restore it, Purdy. Let's get back to full health. But let's talk about some of the IDPs that were involved with the Combine, Addy. We're going to do a Combine recap tonight. So we will mention some of the guys that did not participate in the Combine, but the focus here is on the testing data, what we saw with the athletics, the on-field drills, and just kind of give a lay of the land here, updated post-Combine, now that we have some more data about these guys, Addy. And here's the thing I would say to a lot of the folks on Twitter is that data is good, Addy. We should not be afraid of information that makes us better informed and allows us to make a more educated decision.
Yeah. As many data points as we can have, That's why we don't just lean on one thing here. We like PFF grades. We like RAS scores. We like college statistics. We like everything.
Yeah, Player Profiler has a ton of great data. We look at that as well.
We want to have as much data as possible. We want to have as many viewpoints as possible. I mean, we also watch the games. Duh. Everyone watches the games. But that's not enough anymore to try and find, an edge. You got to look at everything. it's everything should be. It's a marriage. It's not one or the other.
Yeah, it's a false dichotomy to say, oh, you should just watch the tape, or oh, who cares about the tape? Just look at the measurables.
Also,
no.
it's like you guys aren't scouts. I don't like what you might not. You don't know what you're watching probably.
Yeah. Thanks, random internet guy with 300 followers. Also, look at the phraseology there of watch the tape. This is such an antiquated notion that we're literally referring to it like VHS tape or like a film reel.
Yeah.
I don't get the people who say, well, all you need is the tape. Well, no, you don't, because success in the NFL at the highest level, the guys that become super duper stars, far and away are athletic freaks. They are the outliers. They are the 0.01%. And so that's why it's important to know what kind of athlete do we have here. Because yes, you can I was looking at Antonio Brown's player profiler because I got it confused with another prospect we were looking for this research today. He was a terrible athlete, but that he was still uber productive. So it's like, yes, history is littered with cases of highly productive, prolific players that were not great athletes, but by and large, the players that reach that top tier are freaky athletes.
Yeah. And some of that stuff doesn't translate. Like, a lot of the receivers being athletic, that doesn't always translate. But like, I think when you talk about defensive linemen, edge rushers,
absolutely,
guys like that, like the athleticism really matters. And so, yeah, we track all that stuff over here at the IDP show. We think it's important. We think all of it's important. We don't think that any one thing is really more important than the other. You should be looking at everything.
Yeah.
And that's with everything in life. It's not just, fancy football.
Let's have a life podcast. Let's talk about the Looking at Everything in Life podcast. We'll save that for later in the off season, maybe like June or something. But let's talk about some of these prospects, Addy. Let's start with everyone's favorite position. We're going to start with a guy. I think we would be remiss if we did not start with the linebacker that blew up the combine. I know this was a lot of IDP analysts, one of their favorite prospects coming out. It is Jack Campbell, linebacker, Iowa. Addy, this dude we knew fit the bill of like lunch pail, rack up 160 tackles, 3 down kind of linebacker. I think what we weren't anticipating was the freaky level of athleticism from Jack Campbell, 9.98 RAS, and in the upper percentile for many of the tests there at the combine. So I think Jack Campbell is a big time winner from this weekend. Yeah, he was 88th percentile burst score and 94th percentile agility score. So 6'5", 249 pounds. I think Jack Campbell is going to be a big time target for a lot of folks in rookie drafts.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he pretty much cemented himself as the top linebacker, maybe the second linebacker. I still like Drew Sanders quite a bit. I feel like he's going to be number 1 on most people's boards, but unfortunately we didn't see him here at the combine. I think he would have tested well, but maybe he'll do a pro day or something. So I guess to be continued with him. But yeah, Jack Campbell, I mean, amazing. 6'5", 249, 4.65 40. I mean, that's not the best 40 score, but like when you're that big, it doesn't really matter. And like the instincts are so good. He's always in the right spot. Has everything that you want between the ears. But yeah, like you said, the athleticism was a little bit of a surprise. We knew he was athletic, but we didn't know he was 9.98 RAS score athletic. And then the college production with him was great too. His junior year, he had 140 tackles. And then his senior year, he had 125 tackles. Also was pretty good at getting sacks, I believe.
Yeah, it looks like I'm looking at the career stats here. So 34 games, 299 tackles, 139 solos, 12.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 5 picks during his college career. Shout out to Kyle Bellyfuel, Joy the Tooth. They've got their write-ups over at Football Guys. And I love what Kyle said here about Jack Campbell, his 3rd-ranked linebacker. Campbell has the makings of a steady tackle-producing linebacker for us IDP gamers. His draft capital and fit will be one to monitor as he could contribute potentially early with his build, skill set, and instincts if needed. And that's a big boy, Eddie. I think that guy is going to hold up very well in coverage.
Yeah, he's gonna. I mean, there's a ton of teams that need linebackers too. So I mean, I think that he feels like a lock for second round at worst.
Yeah, I love it. Well, let's talk about the next guy here that I know a lot of people are also excited about. Trenton Simpson, linebacker. Clemson was another guy who performed very well. We had the RAS come in at 9.86, so very solid there. 6'2", 235 pounds, 99th percentile 40-yard dash, 4.43, and speed score 122. That is 98th percentile, and hat tip to Player Profiler for all these data points here. So, Addy, I think this is another guy that, along with Campbell, was a big-time winner. We expected the athleticism here with Simpson, and I think he delivered at the Combine.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the 4.43, that was one of the fastest 40 times for a linebacker. And then, yeah, he was somewhat productive in college. This last year, 12 games, 72 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks. He was on that really good Clemson defense. So, I mean, the opportunities probably weren't what some of these other guys had. But yeah, I mean, Trenton Simpson's, he's I think either way, you know, most people are going to have this guy as a top 3 linebacker.
Yeah. Kyle
had him as well.
Yeah, Kyle had him number 1.
Yeah.
In his pre-combine rankings, he said he's an exciting 3-down linebacker with the ability to impact the game in multiple ways. He should vie for a first-round selection when the NFL draft gets here.
PFF grades for Trenton Simpson last year, 68.3. And 73.2 in 2021. I didn't mention Jack Campbell's either, but in 2022, Jack Campbell was a 91.7 PFF grade, 69.8 in 2021.
Yeah, so. You mentioned Drew Sanders as well. Did not actually participate in the Combine, so not going to get as much of a breakdown here, but...
he was insane, though, college production-wise.
Yes.
Last year, he had 103 tackles, 13.5 tackles for loss, and 9.5 sacks. And that was also a guy that I believe was late to transition to linebacker. I believe he was maybe a running back.
Yeah. Well, one of the next guys we're going to talk about here was a wide receiver. So I think we have a couple converts here on this list. But let's talk about the next guy, and this is the guy I was mentioning, one of Bobby's favorites. I think Bobby actually might have pegged him as like his linebacker darling for this draft. It is Deion Henley, linebacker, Washington State. And, yeah, this guy was a converted wide receiver. And we wanted to pull up the testing data here, Addy. So 8.89 RAS, so not as, eye-popping as some of the other guys, but still 4.54 40, 89th percentile, 77th percentile speed score, 69th percentile burst score, 6'2", 225 pounds. Mr. Henley hailing from Washington State. Yeah, converted wide receiver. Super. I mean, can you imagine playing offense, like coming to college because you're such a prolific wide receiver and then transitioning to the complete opposite side of the ball and going linebacker? Transferred to Washington State, started his career at Nevada as a wide receiver. So Deion Henley's got Bobo hot in the pants, and I think there's reason to be optimistic. I mean, again, not the most eye-popping tester for the Combine, but I think did well enough that he should be in the mix for us IDP gamers. Yeah,
I mean, for only playing linebacker for 2 years to rack up 256 total tackles, I mean, that's pretty impressive. 7.5 tackles per game for his career in college. So yeah, I mean, you love to see that, and yeah, I think that with the testing and everything, this guy's probably going to be a 2nd or 3rd rounder. So yeah, I mean, you're looking at probably like a 3rd or 4th round rookie pick, I'd say.
Yeah, so
with a lot of upside.
Absolutely, it sounds like he needs a little more polish, as you would expect with a guy transitioning. So it seems like a high upside guy that needs a little bit of time to develop. Yeah. So I think if you're drafting him, you're probably doing so with some patience in mind, not expecting maybe a instant producer like some of these other guys. Like, I think Simpson and Campbell could be year 1 contributors right off the bat, depending on where they land.
I think so. Because they're going to be a lot higher drafted too. So, if teams willing to spend high draft capital, you got to figure that they have an immediate need. And we'll want to see those guys ASAP.
Yeah. So let's talk about the fourth linebacker here that we wanted to cover. Owen, I'm going to butcher a lot of these names, y'all. We're from Kentucky.
We don't know them yet.
Yeah, we're still, this is early in the process. So Owen Pappoe, linebacker, Auburn, and the Auburn product did pretty well. 9.24 RAS score, 40-yard dash, 4.39, 100th percentile, 97th percentile speed score, 74th percentile burst score, and 94th percentile bench press. So this dude is throwing up some weight at. He's 6 foot, 225. So he did grade poorly on the composite size grade. That's what I like about RAS. If you've never checked out the site before, I love how they break it down basically into size grade, a speed grade, an explosion grade, and an agility grade. And then you can see based on someone's chart, the color coding kind of lets you know how they kind of rack up in those different categories. So Pappoe was a very poor composite size grade. So look at some of the other guys. Dayon Henley was poor in the size department as well. And then, Trenton Simpson was good on size, and then I'm sure Jack Campbell is going to be, elite. He was elite on size. So it was, for Jack Campbell on the RAS side of things, fellas, elite size, elite explosion, elite agility, great speed. So
he had a 6.743 cone, which is pretty ridiculous.
Nuts. I think this
like
guy,
like one of the all-time times for a linebacker.
Depending on where this guy ends up, he could be the first linebacker off the board in rookie drafts. I think if he gets in that, God, Matt, can't you just see him being at Iowa, going to like the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, that would be.
I mean, the
a perfect fit.
Black and yellow, nice transition. But Owen Pappoe, I think, is another guy. I think all of these guys we're going to talk about tonight, none of them like killed themselves with these combine results. I think they're all going to be in the mix for your 5 to 6, 7 round rookie drafts. So Owen Pappoe, another name to keep an eye on, Addy.
Yeah, and he was also fairly productive in college. His final year, he had 12 games, 91 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. He averaged 6.2 tackles per game throughout his college career. But yeah, I mean, who knows with a lot of these guys?
I know. We're just, again, folks, we're just kind of sorting through the combine data here and trying to paint as good a picture as we can of what these guys are going to look like.
Yeah, draft capital will be very important.
Absolutely.
That'll kind of order all this stuff for us. And
I think we're starting to see a little bit of a hierarchy shake out, though, with how some of these guys graded.
Yeah, I think we can kind of estimate where these guys are going to go now, I think.
Yeah.
It does kind of, I think, put everything into focus. It's made it a lot easier for me to rank recently.
Absolutely. Yeah, the athletic data really helps. This is one of my favorite, because this sounds like a video game character, this next guy. DeMarvion Overshone, linebacker, Texas. I love this guy's name. He was 6'3", 229 pounds. Again, out of Texas, so okay size grade. 8.51 RAS. He was a 4.56 in the 40, 87th percentile, 77th percentile speed score. Was only, I think, 4th percentile on the bench press. So we got to get a little bit of strength added for Mr. Overshone there. But this was another player that I think showed out well. And let's pull up some of the, let's see where Kyle has this guy ranked. So he has him ranked, very highly. Number 4 overall for Kyle. Career stats across 39 games, 249 tackles, 136 solos, 30.5 tackles for loss, 9 sacks. Get after it, DeMarvion.
Yeah, that's 0.78 tackles for loss per game. That's one of the best numbers for linebackers. 71.5 PFF grade last year. Yeah, he's going to be one of the top guys too. I'd imagine, he'll be drafted no later than the 3rd round. But yeah, it's someone you'll probably be able to get like in the 4th or 5th round.
I'd say so. Yeah, I feel like we're kind of getting into, as we go down here, sort of that 4th, 5th round. Yeah. I think Jack Campbell, Trenton Simpson will probably both be
Drew Sanders. Those guys will be your second and third.
Second and third.
Yeah, I think so.
I agree. So next here, this is the name that I know without a doubt I am absolutely going to butcher. Henry, I'm going to try it though. I'm going to really try it. Henry Oto. Nope. There was too many O's in there. Too many O's and too many T's.
Supposed to like singing, I think.
Yeah. Is it like a song?
I think so.
We'll call him Henry T. Linebacker, Alabama. A lot of Alabama and Georgia on this list, Addy. Not surprising at all. But this guy clocked in 6'1", 227 pounds, 4'6", 40, good for 72nd percentile. He was 58th percentile speed score, 25th percentile burst score, 6.03 RAS. So I think this is one of the guys that you could say maybe hurt his draft stock with the combine performance. I mean, the combine performance, you're a winner or a loser based on usually the athletic testing. Now, we don't really know much about the interviews and how that part of it went. But, you know, and we're not tape dogs. But just looking here at the...
I am.
Yeah, I am too. I didn't want to admit it. I was afraid. But looking at the testing results here, poor size grade, okay explosion grade, great composite speed grade, and did not qualify for the agility grade. So I feel like we're kind of getting into that territory now where these guys might be available in your like free agent auctions.
Yeah. But again, it's not like, it's not like this guy's dead. I mean, there's plenty of awesome linebackers for IDP that aren't the best athletes. But if you look at the production, I mean, the production was pretty damn good.
Tell me about it.
Last year at Alabama, 13 games, 94 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks. But for his career, he has 346 tackles. That's about 7 per game. He did spend his first 2 years at Tennessee before transferring to Alabama. As a freshman at Tennessee, he had 72 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and 1/2 of a sack. So pretty nice.
Yeah.
Pretty nice. Tennessee's still SEC, boss.
Yeah, from an IDP lens, To'o showcases the ability to develop into an every down player. He's been a productive tackler, but playing with more of a physical edge would only add to his game, says Cal Belly Fuel. Let's talk about the next guy here. We recognize this last name, Noah Sewell, linebacker, Oregon. I can only assume this is Penei Sewell's brother. And let's talk about his combine performance, Addy. So he came in 6'2", 246 pounds, 66th percentile 40-yard dash, 4.64 40, but 78th percentile speed score and 88th percentile bench press with 27 reps. Dude clocked in 9.04 RAS. So, maybe not as much hype for Noah Sewell coming in, but the dude performed pretty well overall at the combine.
Yeah, I mean, you like to see that athleticism, but then he was also really productive in college, too. As a junior, he racked up 114 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 1 INT, 5 pass deflections, and 2 forced fumbles. As a true freshman, he had 48 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks, and that was in 7 games. So pretty good. I mean, we do love to see that early college production like that, and that's usually a good sign of a guy being a pretty special talent. So I mean, we saw that with him. We saw that with boy.
That was beautiful. That actually was a song, I think. It is interesting here looking at Kyle's write-up. This was pre-combine, 253 pounds for Noah Sewell. Well, we had the combine measurements clock in for him at 246. So he cut a little bit of weight from what his listed weight was, which is interesting because, as Kyle notes here, due to his thick build, he lacks agility and can be a bit stiff with his change of direction. So you kind of wonder if maybe one of Sewell's focuses was shedding a little bit of weight to be more agile and capable in coverage.
Yeah, probably so. 71.4 PFF grade in 2022, 71.5 in 2021. So pretty solid.
All right, let's wrap up with Dorian Williams, linebacker, Tulane. This was Kyle's 9th ranked linebacker pre-combine, and Dorian clocked in from Tulane, 6'1", 228 pounds, 4.49 40. So the dude's a blazer, 98th percentile 40-yard dash, 92nd percentile speed score, and the RAS pretty solid, 8.54. Not great on the size, but elite speed grade and a good explosion grade. So again, this feels like another one of those kind of late round darts, small school. How productive was this guy over at Tulane?
Pretty productive. Last year, 14 games, 132 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. So that's pretty nice. 316 career tackles. That was 7.3 tackles per game. He had 27 tackles for loss, which is a pretty nice number. That's 0.63 per game. That's good for a linebacker. So yeah, you like to see that. You like to see him making tackles in the backfield. Decent athleticism. Yeah, he did really. I think he helped his stock quite a bit.
Now, he did have more games, but he did have the most tackles across this top 10 here. Again, footballguys.com if you'd like to check out Kyle's work. But 316 total tackles, 195 solos. The next closest was Henry T. from Alabama. Actually, Henry T. was first. He had 345 tackles, but across 50 games.
Yeah.
So 2 mega producers there. So
let me look and see who I have as the most tackles per game on this list.
Ooh, yes. This is the stuff that you get over at the IDPshow.com, folks. Addie's got the dynasty ranks, of course, best in the business. He's got the best ball ranks, the only best ball ranks for IDP in the business. And we're working on the rookie ranks, building those out as well.
Yeah, and they're all amazing. Every single thing that you just mentioned.
You probably are the best person who's ever lived, I would say.
Yeah, it's
people are saying that.
Yeah, they are saying that. All right, so the tackles per game leader in this class, Tyler Grubbs. At least that on this list, I have 20 to 30 linebackers out here. It's pretty much the best prospects. I've gone through Daniel Jeremiah's, Dane, what's his name?
Dane Brugler.
Yeah, I've gone through all. I've been keeping up with what all these guys have been doing, who they like, and whatnot. So Tyler Grubbs. 8.9 tackles per game. He's at a Law Tech, small school, right? Jack Campbell, second, 8.8 tackles per game. Ivan Pace, 8.7 tackles per game. Bumper Pool.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Out of Arkansas.
Let's go, Bumper Pool.
Yeah. He averaged 8.6 tackles per game. Dayon Henley's on this list. He was at 7.5 tackles per game. Henry, 202020. 6.9 tackles.
We're just going to turn him into computer code.
Yeah, Noah Sewell was 6.6. So yeah, I mean, the elite level is that 8 tackles.
Yeah.
Per game. Let's also look at tackles for loss.
I was going to say that's a great transition in there because I think you mentioned Ivan Pace as one of those tackle leaders.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, so he was on the list along with Drew Sanders of the linebackers that did not test. But it seems like to me, again, just sort of wading into these waters, Addie, it seems like we're probably going to have a kind of a big 3 of Trenton Simpson, Drew Sanders, Jack Campbell in terms of the linebackers.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, speaking on Ivan Pace, man, he was very productive. It is a shame we didn't really get to see him test. But he was there, right? And he measured and all that stuff.
Yeah, I can look up to see what his actual measurables were.
But yeah, 35 games in college, 306 tackles. That was 8.7 tackles per game. He had 20 sacks.
Wow, 20 sacks.
Yeah.
That has to be almost leading this class, right?
I'd say so for linebackers, definitely. And then, hell yeah, probably among edge guys, too. That's got to be up there. But that was a 0.57 sacks per game. He had 41.5 tackles for loss, so making plays in the backfield constantly. 1.19 tackles for loss per game. Graded okay, too. Graded very well. 93.1 in 2022, 83 in 21. So Ivan Pace Jr., I mean, if he can get a 3-down roll.
That's Studley. Now, he is 5'11", 231.
Yeah.
So a little on the small side.
But thick.
But thick. You like that. Now, I don't know. These are from Player Profiler. I'm not sure if these are his combine measurables. I'll have to check and see if he actually did attend the combine. But that's the latest information we have from them. So
I don't think he did anything.
Yeah. So I think that's a nice sleeper. That could be
yeah, I like him quite a bit.
A guy outside the top 3 that ends up, cracking into that upper echelon as we get into their rookie seasons.
And we'll see. Maybe he's not a sleeper. Maybe people view him, highly. He didn't need to test at the combine. Maybe he'll still be a 2nd or 3rd round pick.
There is something to be said for those guys who do not test. Typically, it's either I don't want to hurt my stock, I'm working on something, like Bryce Young did not throw or test because he was adding weight to bulk up to get over 200 pounds. Other guys might be working. Typically, if you're working on something, you're working on cutting or adding weight so that you can do a certain thing better.
Right? Is that all Bryce Young did was just weigh?
He just weighed.
So yeah, he just eating the hell out of some food,
just crushing.
Wasn't working out. That's why he wasn't ready.
It was funny. Did you see that picture that came out of him standing at the podium with like shoes that had about a 2-inch thick sole on them?
Oh wow!
So I was like, oh, you're like trying to like impress a girl on a date type of thing right now.
Yeah, because I saw someone like post like one of the commercials he's done recently where he's standing next to Kyler Murray and he looks quite a bit smaller and skinnier than Kyler Murray.
They at least the combine measurements were 3 pounds off. So Kyler was 207, Bryce was 204, but now the Kyler that we know has beefed up since he got into the NFL. He's probably closer to like 212, 215 range.
Yeah.
And I think like Dane Brugler was saying on the combine recap with Robert Mays, like when we actually start the season, Bryce Young's probably going to be playing at about 195. So he's a slight dude.
Yeah.
So that's seeing how well Stroud threw the ball, seeing the size that he had. It just made me a little more comfortable. He's just, man, Bryce Young could be phenomenal, but he is such a size outlier that it would be basically forging his own path to NFL greatness, which makes me nervous.
Watch the tape.
Watch the tape. Cut it off.
Tape don't lie, Josh.
It doesn't lie, but it can deceive.
Also, tape does lie. Like these guys aren't, there's a lot of these guys on here that are going against shitty competition.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's context to everything.
It doesn't lie, but it can deceive. It can pull the wool over your ass.
Sure.
It can manipulate.
Just don't be just one thing, guys.
Don't be one thing. That's a great lesson for life. Don't be one thing. I feel like that's something Sig would say. Don't be one thing.
It is true.
Be many things. Let's talk about the next group here, defensive line. We're starting off with the guy who broke the freaking combine. Again, you're not going to hear a lot of the big names, the Will Andersons, the Tyree Wilsons. You're not going to hear Miles Murphy. You're not going to hear about these guys because they did not participate in the combine. So we're going to talk about some lower tier defensive line guys tonight, and we are kicking things off with Nolan Smith, edge, Georgia. And my God, Addy, this guy set the combine on fire. 4.3, 9, 40, 100th percentile, 6'2", 238 pounds, 98th percentile speed score, and 98th percentile burst score. So one of the cool things that Player Profiler does is they show the rank of this player all time at their position, at the position for this particular rookie class, and then across all positions. So the athleticism score for Nolan Smith, number 5 at the edge position in this class, number 21 overall. The RAS was really solid as well. He got dinged basically for his size, so he's a little on the small side, but elite explosion and elite speed. If we talk winners and losers from the combine, which is always kind of an interesting, fraught exercise, Nolan Smith headlining the winners from the combine.
Yeah, you're right though. The 238. That's a little worrisome. Small. That's like Hassan Reddick range when he came out, which that turned out
worked
to be
out just fine.
Just fine. But it's probably going to take a little bit of time for Nolan Smith to be productive because I think he's going to need to beef up a decent amount.
Quite a bit.
You just see him in like the 245, 250 range. But yeah, I mean, the 4.39, 40, that's amazing. He wasn't that productive in college, but again, he was at Georgia. Surrounded by just tons of talent, it is wild to think about all the talent that has come out of Georgia in the last 2 years.
I mean, it was Alabama, and it still is Alabama, let's be honest. But yeah, Georgia, the pipeline of talent they have pumped into the NFL over the past 2 seasons. I mean, I think they had 17, 18 guys drafted last year. That's almost your entire football team.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
So That's
crazy. They had, Trayvon Walker last year, Jordan Davis, both those guys top picks, and now you have all these other guys.
Yeah. So I don't ding players coming out of those systems like the freaky tight end.
Yeah, they also didn't have enough like opportunity like some of these other schools because they weren't on the field as much.
Exactly,
you know?
exactly right. Like so the freaky like 6'7" tight end that everyone's making the joke, oh, this guy will be a left tackle. He had the one-handed catch and like the end zone catch drills. It's like that dude didn't really see the field because they had these phenomenal tight ends at Georgia. So they've just got athletic freaks coming out of their ears, and Nolan Smith is definitely on that list after his combine performance.
Another good point. Sometimes there's not enough tape, so you got to rely on things like this.
Yep.
You know?
So I was reading Joey's write-up here from Football Guys. Smith could easily be used as more of a blitzing off-ball linebacker, which is intriguing. So I think...
I feel like he'll be a specialist for the first few years of his career.
Not a guy you want setting the edge at that size. Let him beef up, let him learn his craft a little bit, and then unleash that athleticism later in his career. But next up here on the list, Addy, is a guy that apparently is getting top 10 buzz, which is crazy to me. But Lucas Van Ness, edge out of Iowa. They call this guy Hercules is his nickname. And when you see the pictures, you're like, all right, I get it. This dude is incredibly handsome. But another guy who put on a show. This is the athletic freak of this edge class, which is already very freaky, at least from the athletic data that we know thus far. He is the number one of the edge class, the 16 guys that Player Profiler has in the database. Right now, he is the number one freakiest athlete, 4'5", 40 at 6'5", 272 pounds. This is a big boy running a 4.58. That is 92nd percentile, 96th percentile speed score, and an 81st percentile agility score. And again, number one in the edge class, number 10 overall across 205 prospects that they have in the database, and a 9.22 RAS. Addy, this was a freakish performance, and I think Lucas Van Ness probably rocketed himself into top half of the first round consideration.
Yeah, I'd say so. 80.2 PFF grade last year, 70.1 in 21. The college production wasn't really there because he wasn't really a full-time player.
Yeah, that's what I heard as well, which is wild. Like, this guy's going to go top 10?
Yeah. But yeah, just 13 games last year, 36 tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, 6 sacks. He only has 13 sacks in his college career, 19 tackles for loss in his college career. That worked out to 0.73 tackles for loss per game. So yeah, the college production, not really there. A bit of an unknown, a bit of a projection here with this guy. But, I mean, he has all the tools you're looking for. 7.02 three-cone. We like three-cone because it measures bend. So, you know, when you have low scores in three-cones, most of the elite edge rushers have really good three-cone times. Luke Van Ness is no different there, so we like to see that. Also, a lot of these guys didn't run the three-cones, which was unfortunate. But
yeah,
I understand it. You know, there's a lot of money on the line if you don't run a good three-cone, and it can hurt your stock. Like some of these guys, it's not worth it.
It's like, do it. Well, I could do it and do it poorly and cost myself draft stock and millions of dollars. So I will choose not to.
But in Van Ness's situation, he was a guy that was still kind of relatively unknown, wanted to prove himself, and 7.02, a very respectable score.
Yeah. So Lucas Van Ness, a big winner as well, the most athletic edge prospect, at least of the ones that we have data for thus far. Let's move to Derek Hall, edge, Auburn. This was a guy who clocked in at 6'3", 254 pounds, 4.55, 40, 95th percentile, 93rd percentile speed score, 74th percentile burst score, RAS 9.23. Anything above 9, Addy, I feel like, all right, this guy's got the athleticism that is at least at the level where it's not a red flag. Now, the size score for RAS was poor, but great explosion grade and elite speed grade. I think Derek Hall made himself some money at the combine.
Yeah, I like Derek Hall quite a bit. 71.0 PFF grade in 2022, 76.6 in 21. Also pretty productive his last 2 years. Last year, 12 games, 60 tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks. His junior year, he put up 52 tackles, 12.5 tackles for loss, and 9 sacks. So, yeah, I mean, combine that with the athleticism that I don't think a lot of people were really expecting, the 9.24 RAS. I mean, he feels like a second-round pick again.
Yep.
which is, that feels like he could be a pretty solid like 4th or 5th round pick for you in your rookie drafts.
Absolutely. Yeah, there was a lot of those guys. The Sam Williams, the Jeremiah, the
Arnold Ebiketie.
Who was the guy for the Jets? I have him on my team, and I can't even remember his name.
Jermaine Johnson.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's what's nice about these edge rushers is it's when we talk about kind of a store and an asset that has and stores value, they are going to retain that value longer than, say, safeties or linebackers because of the importance placed on edge rushing in the NFL. These guys are going to be highly drafted, and that draft capital imbues them with more value and staying power and longevity than players who are drafted later who are more replaceable. So that's why these guys are good stores of value. They're good. If you're going to throw darts in the rookie draft, throwing it on edge rusher is it's a dart that I'm happy to keep throwing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's going to be a lot of those types, I think, in this coming
Absolutely.
draft.
Yeah, the edge class, from everything I've heard thus far, kind of doing the initial research, this edge class is loaded.
Yeah.
So it should be a lot of fun. Let's wrap up with the defensive lineman from Notre Dame, Isaiah Foskey. And old Foskey was getting frisky at the combine. 6'5", 264 pounds. This dude popped off the screen at the combine. 4'5", 40. Again, 6'5", 264 pounds. That's 100th percentile, running a 4.58. 99th percentile speed score, 97th percentile burst score, 92nd percentile agility score, 121.3 athleticism score from Player Profiler, second for the defensive line position of 18 prospects, 6th overall in the class. Again, 205 prospects. And at the D-line position, 437 players in the database. He is number 5 all-time defensive line, RAS 9.32. Addy, I did not know much about Isaiah Foskey coming in, but I know about him now.
Yeah, I mean, checking a lot of boxes. 71.8 PFF grade in 2022, 80.7 in 21. In 2022, in 12 games, he had 44 tackles, 13.5 tackles for loss, 10.5 sacks. Nice number there. And then as a junior, he had 52 tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss, 10 sacks. So, yeah, kind of what we said about Derek Hall, kind of what we'll say about, B.J. Ojulari, Will McDonald IV. A lot of those guys are very similar to me, and they're all, I think, worthy dart throws for you.
You said very similar to me. I was like, oh, they are brilliant IDP minds who have the best rankings they're similar in your eyes. Okay. That makes more sense.
They'll never be me.
I was tracking with you. I was willing to go down that path with you.
They'll never be this special.
Nah, never be that special. No one could be. Other notable defensive linemen, again, who did not participate, Will Anderson, probably the top prospect in the draft since Jalen Carter. That whole thing. We didn't get a chance to talk on Mike about that, but you do wonder what's going to come of that. He was booked and released and returned to the combine. I think he weighed in but did not participate really otherwise. There wasn't athletic data for us to draw on. I checked on RAS and Player Profiler. So Will Anderson, of course, is probably going to be the belle of the ball, probably the first defensive player selected in the draft.
Yep.
I think he'll probably go 3 or 4, depending on if the Arizona Cardinals stay put or if somebody trades up to take a quarterback there.
Great pick for Arizona.
Really would. So, but yeah, a lot of the defensive linemen, Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson, Felix Unadike-Uzama.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, Will McDonald IV, Miles Murphy, B.J. Ojulari, Andre Carter II, Jalen Carter. None of these guys gave us the athletic testing from the combine, so we aren't going to spend a lot of time on these guys. Again, we've got so many episodes focused on rookies coming up in the feed, so stick around. We're going to be kicking those off here very soon. Macri's going to have Kyle and Joey and John Glosser on to talk through these guys leading up to the draft. We'll have Mike Woolard on to talk linebackers, so we're going to get into these guys in a lot more depth, but congratulations to some of these defensive linemen who made themselves some money.
Yep.
But going from kind of optimistic, positive, Addy, let's spin towards little bit of pessimism because this safety class was pretty disappointing across the board, at least in terms of the athletic data that we got. The number one safety prospect, at least for IDP, I think in most people's eyes, is Brian Branch from Alabama. 6 foot, 190 pounds. But the athleticism was not there. 4.58, 40, 45th percentile, 19th percentile speed score, 49th percentile burst score. He was at his position of safety 16 out of 19 in terms of athleticism, 6.1 RAS, Addy, poor size, good explosion, good speed. I mean, does it matter with Brian Branch? Does it matter with safety? I don't know. I think this will be a curious case because everything else I've heard about Brian Branch is, this guy's a really solid safety prospect.
Yeah. Probably doesn't matter that much. But you look at the top safeties in the league. Derwin James, 9.35 RAS score.
Wasn't Jeremy Chin like a 10 or a 9.9 or something like that?
Petre was a 8.45. Brisker was a 9.12. Yes, Jeremy Chin was a 10.
Yep.
Kyle Hamilton was a 9.33. So,
does it matter?
Maybe it does matter a little bit. We don't want him to be...
That was bad enough, where it was kind of raising my eyebrows a little bit.
Antoine Winfield, 9.34. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, 7.94. Talanoa Hufanga, 5.89.
Okay, so there you go.
Buda Baker, 6.37. So, it's, there we have a nice little mix. But, yeah, those top guys were pretty nice at the RAS. Kyle Duggar was a 9.56. I'm just going straight down the ranks, guys.
Again, theidpshow.com.
Minka, 8.48. Cameron Curl, 7.53.
So this is going to put into context a lot of these safeties that we're going to discuss here. Brian
Jamal Adams, 7.10. Javon Holland, 9.54.
Wow, some of these dudes are like freaky athletic.
Xavier McKinney, 5.87.
Okay, so it is possible.
Sprinkled in some bad ones, but there's a lot of nice, like 8 and up.
Yes, a lot of like guys in the green, not a lot of guys in the yellow-red here that we're going to see. So Brian Branch did not have a good combine performance. I think it's safe to say that, at least in terms of the data that we have available here to us now. But let's talk about some other safeties as well, Addy, because again, they kind of all fall into this bucket. Did you have some production data that you wanted to share on Brian Branch here?
Yes, I do.
Let's give the dude his props. Let's give the tape dogs their bone here.
Yeah,
talk about the production.
Production-wise, he was productive. Last year, in 13 games, he put up 90 tackles, had 2 INTs, and 7 pass breakups. But that was his best year by far. His total tackle for his college career was 172 in 35 games. That was just 4.9 per game. He did have 17.5 tackles for loss, which is pretty solid for a DB. 23 pass deflections, so nice little playmaker. Brian Branch will be fine, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Is he going to be? I guess the landing spot's going to be so important for so many of these guys, but. Fourth, the safeties typically go third, fourth round.
Yeah.
Depends on where the landing spot is, if there's opportunity.
If he gets like first round draft capital, which all the mocks seem to think.
Did the mocks have him first round?
They did. Now, will that continue? Maybe not. But if he gets like first round draft capital, early second round draft capital, I'm sure he'll be like a third round pick.
I could see it. Let's move to the second guy here on Joey the Tooth's list. And he was a big fan of Brian Branch. Called him an outstanding prospect. So I trust Joey's eye for talent. But the athletic stuff, a little questionable. Let's move to number 2 here on his list. Antonio Johnson, safety, Texas A&M. 6'2", 200 pounds. 4.5, 240 was 68th percentile. 58th percentile on the speed score, and only 6th percentile on the burst score. So a little bit better on the safety position rankings as far as player profiler here. 6th out of 19th. RAS 5.24, though, Addy. So I think I only heard you mention one guy that was down in the 5s for the RAS. So, again, this is Joey's second-ranked safety pre-combine here, and he did not perform well for the athletic side of things.
Yeah, production-wise, he was solid. 9 games last year, 71 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 1 sack. In his college career, he put up 164 tackles in 25 games. That was 6.6 tackles per game. That's pretty solid for a defensive back. Graded really well, 81.6 PFF graded in 2022, 87.4 in 21. I kind of like Antonio Johnson a little bit.
Okay.
I think he's someone that you'll probably get a discount. Could be like, a 4th or 5th rounder for you, and you could be very happy with him.
Okay. Well, next up here, another Alabama product. It is.
Ooh, I forgot to have usage stats for these guys.
Oh, do you now?
Yeah, I do. He played 78.5% of his snaps in the sweet spot.
Oh, okay. So that was Antonio Johnson.
Yeah, he played 49 on the line, 128 in the box, 110 at free safety, 280 in the slot, and 14 at corner. So great usage. It wasn't just all slot.
Yeah,
bumping up that sweet spot percentage. So
okay. What about, do you have Brian Branch as well?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about his usage. Again, folks, theidpshow.com. Check it out.
All right, Brian Branch. He played 95% of his snaps in the sweet spot.
Oh, wow. Really?
He played a ton.
Yum.
He played a ton of slot. So he had 768 total snaps last year. 24 of those were on the line. 136 were in the box. 25 were at free safety. 569 in the slot. 14 out wide.
So he's a slot boy.
Yeah, so 729 out of his 768 snaps were on the line, in the box, or in the slot for Brian Branch. So that's great usage. Hopefully that continues at the next level.
Beautiful. Yes, please.
But who knows?
That's a lot of sweet spot for a guy with some competition there in terms of the next guy that we're going to talk about, plus the linebackers we already talked about. Jordan Battle, safety. Alabama is the next guy up on our list here. 6'1", 209 pounds, but athleticism for the 40 and the speed score were middle of the road, 4.55 40, 56th percentile, 97.5. Speed score was good for 62nd percentile, but he did come in at an 8.99 RAS score. Good on the composite size grade, good on the composite speed grade, but we don't have any explosiveness or agility testing data for this guy. So I think the grade is a little bit incomplete for Jordan Battle right now. What do we have on the production side for Brian Branch's Alabama safety mate?
So yeah, like we mentioned, Branch played a lot of the box and slot snaps. So that meant Jordan Battle played a lot more deep. So he played 907 snaps last year. 6 of those were on the line. 196 were in the box. 574 were at free safety. 129 in the slot, 2 at corner. So that is 36.5% of his snaps came in the sweet spot.
So he was more the deep safety, whereas Branch was more the box safety.
Yep. 81.5 PFF grade for Jordan Battle in 2022, 88.0 in 2021. Last year in 13 games, he put up 71 tackles. He had 1 interception, 2 passes defended. 252 total career tackles. That was 4.8 tackles per game. He had 6 interceptions at Alabama. So yeah, I mean, more of your deep safety type, but he does have good size. I mean, 6'1", 206. I mean, that's pretty solid size. So I mean, just because they played that in free safety doesn't mean that's what they're going to be doing. He's a versatile safety. He could probably play a lot of different roles for you.
Yeah. So Jordan Battle, Brian Branch. It'll be interesting to see where these guys land, how they're deployed. Next up here, Sidney Brown out of Illinois. Let's talk about his combine results here. 5'10", 211 pounds. Performed pretty well. 4.47 40 was good for 83rd percentile. And then 88th percentile speed score and 93rd percentile burst score. So RAS was looking really good, 9.63. Now, was poor composite size grade at, again, 5'10", 211 pounds, but the explosion, elite, and the speed, elite. So Sidney Brown popped off the screen as far as the safeties go, Eddie.
Well, the production is pretty good for Mr. Brown as well. 78.4 PFF grade in 2022, 65.3 in 21. Production-wise, though, last year, 12 games, 60 tackles, 6 INTs. So that's really nice on the interceptions. But look at when he was a sophomore, 88 tackles, 3 INT as a sophomore. So for his college career, he had 320 tackles. That was 6.4 tackles per game. Very, very good for a defensive back. And then 16 pass deflections and 10 INTs total. So looking at the usage, he played 87.1% of his snaps in the sweet spot. 444 in the box.
Ooh.
60 at free safety,
Love
177 in the slot, 25 on the line, 36 at corner. So that's really, really good.
So what was the overall sweet spot percentage on Mr. Brown again?
87%.
Wow. That's at the second highest that we've had so far, behind Branch.
Yep. Also great size for Sidney Brown, 6 foot, 205. So, yeah, one of the better prospects.
I like it. There we go. Well, next up here, another name that I probably will butcher, but again, going to try my best. Jair Brown, Penn State.
I think so.
It's a noble effort. Mr. Brown, we will go with Mr. Brown, was 5'11", 203 pounds. Really poor performance at the combine. 4.65 40 was good for 20th percentile. 20th percentile speed score, 14th percentile burst score. He was 13 out of 19 at the safety position, and RAS 4.59. So, no bueno, Addy. Let's hear the production and the usage, because I don't think the athleticism is doing much for Mr. Brown.
Yeah, that's not great. But he is going to be one of these guys, I think, that you got to kind of trust the tape, because he did a lot of stuff. So 13 games last year, he put up 74 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, 4 INTs. So stuffed the stat sheet. But, you know, he really wasn't that productive before last year. He just had 153 career tackles. That was 4.8 tackles per game. 78.7 PFF grade in 2022, 67.6 in 21. I don't know.
Now, I will say, Joey has a very interesting comp for this guy. In his article, he says that Brown reminds me of Bob Sanders, a short, stout frame with good ball skills and incredible strength. Now, you got my attention if you're comparing it to a player who should be in the Colts Ring of Honor. Get it together, Jim Irsay. Get Bob Sanders in the Ring of Honor. This is a Connie special. Shout out Connie. But yeah, that is very questionable athleticism from Mr. Brown. So I think it remains to be seen how the NFL is going to view this guy.
His usage, he played 679 total snaps, 58 were on the line, 157 were in the box, 345 were at free safety, 111 were at slot, 8 at corner. So that was 326 snaps in the sweet spot. That is about 54%, I'm guessing.
54, you just
I didn't have that one calculated, Josh.
You just kind of tabulating.
Yeah, do 326 divided by 679 out there at home if you guys are interested. If you want the exact.
Sound off in the comments.
Let us know what that is.
Joke's on you, Eddie. You said trust the tape. I only trust the tape. I only trust my eyeballs.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Next up here, Brandon
I don't
Jones.
trust anyone.
I don't trust myself. I don't trust anyone. Brandon Joseph, safety, Notre Dame. Let's talk about Brandon Joseph here. 6 foot, 202 pounds. Not great on a lot of the workout metrics. 4.62 40, 31st percentile, 88.7 speed score, good for 26th percentile. Burst score, 5th percentile. The agility score, 41st percentile. He is 14 out of 19 in this class in terms of athleticism, and a very mediocre 5.84 RAS score. Okay on the size, good on the speed, poor on the explosion, good on the agility. So I would say overall a mixed bag for Brandon Jones on the combine results, Eddie.
Yeah, the production sucked, though, last year at Notre Dame. 10 games, 30 tackles, 1 INT, 1 pass deflection.
What are we doing, Brandon?
Yeah, I guess it was just, I don't know, maybe the team. I don't know if they were just a really good defense. He wasn't getting a lot of opportunities, but he wasn't getting a lot of tackles. And he was out there for 10 games, so just kind of odd. But if you look back at Northwestern, he was much more productive. As a sophomore at Northwestern, he put up 79 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 3 INT, 4 PDs. As a freshman, he put up 46 tackles and 6 INTs. So that's pretty nice.
Yeah. You know what I would say to this guy if I was in the stands? Let's go, Brandon.
There you go.
Let's go. Maybe pick it up just a little bit with the production here. We're trying to help you out. So let's move to the
Trump 2024.
Oh, God, you had to do it. Somebody just unsubscribed right there, Addy. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Last up here, one of my favorite names on this list, Jamie Robinson.
Good name.
Put Paxton as jammies before I put him to bed. So big fan of jammies. Florida State safety. Let's go over what we got on Jamie. 5'11", 191 pounds. You notice a theme here. Really piss poor workout metrics. 4.59 40. I say that like if you put a gun to my head, I probably couldn't even break 7. But 4.59, good for 42nd percentile, 18th percentile speed score, 15th percentile burst score. Out of 19 safeties in this class, he ranks 18th in terms of his athleticism score and a 4.89 RAS score. Very poor size, poor explosion, and good speed. Jamie, did he have the production or the usage, Addy? Because I don't think his athleticism is going to help his draft stock very much.
Usage was okay. 55% of his snaps in the sweet spot. Production was very good, though. Last year in 13 games, he put up 99 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, and 5 pass deflections. For his career, he put up 318 total tackles in 47 games. That was 6.8 tackles per game. Very, very good. 6 PDs and 7 INTs. So, yeah, I like old Jammy.
Oh, Jammy Jam. I just love the name.
Yeah, it's great.
We're easy. If you have drip, visors, tats, dreads,
yeah,
swaggy outfits, we're in. Fun names, we're in. If you have a mullet, we're in.
Yep.
There's not a lot of things that are going to turn us off. Some of this athletic testing data has me a little down on this safety class, but
right, the names are strong.
The names are very strong. I am liking a lot. I mean, Battle. We got Branch. Now I'm a little against branches right now because I got about 2,000 of them down in my yard.
That's right.
But loving some Jammy. Let's talk about, to wrap things up, some notable DBs who did not participate in the combine. J.L. Skinner, Ronnie Hickman. Got any interesting nugs on these two gentlemen, Addy?
Who was it?
It was J.L. Skinner and Ronnie Hickman. I think we went to school with those guys, actually.
Yeah, I think so.
I haven't seen old J.L. in a minute.
Skinner, solid. Went to Boise State, I believe. 12 games last year, 65 tackles, 4 INTs, 5 PDs. He's a lanky one. 6'4", 220.
So he's
usage-wise, 77% of his snaps in the sweet spot.
He is Joey's third-ranked safety. That's why I put him on the list here.
So, yeah, really good usage. And then who else do we have?
The other guy was Ronnie Hickman. And
out of Ohio State.
Yeah, so let's see. This was, Ohio State. It was Joey's 8th-ranked safety. Looks like 28 games played, 157 tackles. Looks like he had 7 passes defended and 3 interceptions. And then for, J.L. Skinner, 38 games played, 208 tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss, 12 passes defended, 7 interceptions. So this guy's out there making plays for Boise State. I'm sure the tape dogs were lapping this one up. But yeah, Ronnie Hickman productive as well, looks like.
Yeah, 84.8 PFF grade for Hickman in 2022, 67.9 in 21. Production, 5.6 tackles per game. Yeah, he's solid. Usage-wise, 73% of his snaps in the sweet spot.
So there we go. Combine recap, folks.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the class presentation when you've kind of started to look at stuff and you're just getting up there and you're going on charisma.
Yeah.
And just hoping for the best.
Yeah.
But we did it, folks.
We're gonna be constantly, changing the way we think about these guys.
That's
in the next
right.
coming months. But I think for the most part, we know who we like.
Yeah.
The guys I'm most interested in, obviously Will Anderson, duh. Tyree Wilson, duh. Jack Campbell, Drew Sanders,
Van Ness.
And then
We'll see.
I'm not going to be probably too on fire for a lot of those. Those are the main guys I really care about.
Yep.
And I'm sure there'll be some other sleepers that filter in, and stuff like that. I mean,
this was about the time when Trayvon Walker started his meteoric rise. So it's like, who's going to rise up the ranks? This is where, we'll start to have pro day data start to come in. Mm-hmm. That'll shape opinions.
That's right. So yeah, a lot of these guys that didn't test, we should hopefully get something.
That's right. I hope we get something on a lot of these guys because that will be helpful. But now it's time to start tuning into the mocks, like seeing where some of these guys are being mocked to, some possible landing spots. And of course, we'll be bringing it to you guys from the Sode Shack, the live round 1 reaction. We have something very special lined up for that, Addy. Some very special guests will be in the house. So look forward to that. We'll be breaking it all down with you guys. Like we mentioned, we've got a ton of rookie content coming up. So this is just kind of the appetizer. And I think it was an important one because it sort of completes the puzzle for a lot of these guys who participated in the Combine. Addy, I think we have a more complete picture of a lot of these prospects. That's going to be very helpful for deciding what to do with these guys in IDP rookie drafts.
Yes. And just one last thing, because I forgot to do it earlier, but let's look at some of these top guys and their RAS scores, just to, kind of reinforce that this stuff does matter.
Please educate me.
All right, let's start from the top. Some of the best players in the league, and see what their RAS scores were. So Micah Parsons, 9.59 RAS score. Nick Bosa, 9.44. Max Crosby, 9.65. Myles Garrett, 9.99.
I'm sensing a theme here. A lot of 9s in the mix.
A lot of 9s. Linebacker, 8.58. That's Roquan Smith. Nick Bolton, 4.62.
Okay, so there you go.
So, we can see these low RAS scores be fine linebackers. Athleticism isn't everything for a linebacker. A lot of times you want a guy that's smart and can understand coverage and stuff like that. Fred Warner, for instance, he wasn't the best athlete. He was a
I'm going to laugh when you say, oh,
that's
wait,
not true. He actually was really good.
Perfect 10.
9.67 RAS score. I apologize for that.
Sorry, Fred. Fred's dad unsubscribed yet again.
Yeah, most apologies to Fred's dad. 9.90 for Brian Burns, 9.87 for Jalen Phillips, 9.63 for Kayvon Thibodeau, 9.88 for Aiden Hutchinson, 9.79 for TJ Watt, 9.84 for Quinnen Williams, 9.35 for Derwin James, 9.32 for Devin White.
So you get the picture, folks. Like,
I think it matters.
The top of the league, at least in terms of how we're viewing this, the lens that we're using, which are the dynasty rankings, how these assets stack up in terms of value. Athleticism, when you put your finger on the scale, it adds a little more weight than some of the other factors that we look at. So don't be one of those kind of false dichotomy tape elitist. Tape is great. We love tape. We also love athletic measurables. All the data points are valuable and beautiful, Addy. And we just wanted to give the athletic data its time in the sun here before we started to jump into more of the analysis and the breakdown of how these guys could fit in the NFL.
It has been nice seeing people, though, kind of adopt all this stuff. Like, you do see more talk about this stuff than ever before. Like, when we first got going in this space, sorry.
Oh, God. I just shuddered.
No one, there wasn't really a lot of talk about it. It's not like we brought it to the forefront or anything, but it's something we've always been interested in. And I think just everyone is starting to realize, like, oh, yeah, there's things that maybe can help us predict.
Yeah. What's predictive?
Yeah.
Athleticism is predictive.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but no measuring stick is when it comes to this thing, because we're talking about human beings at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And people are flawed.
People get hurt.
Yep.
People fall
land
off.
in bad situations,
bad
coaching.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
happens. So, well, thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. Be sure you're checking us out over on the YouTubes, youtube.com/@theIDP show. The subscribers have been popping off over there, Addy. It's been a lot of fun to see. Of course, theidpshow.com. We've got the second session of the IDP Crash Course coming up with Jake Colhagen and the aforementioned Joey the Tooth and Kyle Bellyfuel coming up Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Central. It is free for paid supporters, and they get 4 guest passes as well. So, and the replay is already up from the first session We'll have the second session up there as well. So if you're a paid supporter over at the IDPshow.com, you're going to have access to that. So if you're maybe newer to IDP, or maybe you're trying to convince some league mates to go to IDP, this is the resource that you need, and it will be up on the website as like an evergreen type of thing, Addy. So we hadn't really seen this before, sort of this deep dive. I mean, both of these sessions will clock in probably around like an hour and 45 minutes. So we're talking like, 3.5 hours worth of intro to IDP. Here's what you need to know. Here's what's important.
You got no excuses not to be good at this IDP thing, folks. We're laying it all out there for you. Here's how to do it. Then also you have just the best ranks in the game. The best everything in the game.
Best everything in the game. We've got the best ball drafts are rolling, so we
get in on those. Those are a ton of fun.
Yep. Kyle's got one fired up. We got Macri going with one. We just started Jake Colhagen. Jake Colhagen has one going. So
2 have finished already. We're going to have the ADP from that. That's going to be the best ADP out there.
That's right.
None of this Fantasy Pros garbage. None of it. Just the best people that are locked in drafting. There's stakes.
There's money on the line.
Money on the line.
Yes, sir.
People want to do well. We haven't experienced a lot of timeouts in this thing.
Nope.
I mean, probably 5 at most.
5, like, oh, I didn't mean to pick that guy, or the clock expires and it's the auto pick. I mean,
everyone's pretty locked in.
Yep.
Everyone's ready to roll.
Really impressive for like when we started these, which was like mid to late February.
Yeah, we've done 10 of these in February for IDP only.
I just launched 13 with Jake, so we're on the march to 100.
Yep.
And we should mention that'll be part of the IDP draft kit, which will be launching on May 1st. Over at the IDPshow.com, paid supporters get free access to that, and they'll have access to it as long as you're a paid supporter, because we appreciate you. We want to give you the best tools and resources to dominate your drafts, dominate your leagues, win some rings, win some money, win some glory. That's what we're here for.
Yep.
So we should mention we will have an episode coming up later this week. We are going to dive into the free agency preview, and that's going to be a lot of fun. I don't think I've seen a linebacker crop of free agents as juicy as this one is.
Yeah, it's going to be wild, and it just continues to grow, right? We didn't even mention Eric Hendricks got released today.
He did.
We know about Bobby Wagner being released a few weeks ago. So, yeah, it's wild. It's like 20 to 25 deep, it feels like, you know?
There are legitimately probably a dozen guys that will be in the mix for like top 24, top 30 consideration.
Yeah. That's why it's so weird drafting linebackers right now, just because like there's so much unknown. So many of these guys don't have homes yet, and there's only so many available too. You know?
That's right. So who's going to get squeezed out? Some of these guys that were mainstays in years past may not be so when the music stops.
Yeah, linebackers really gross. Like in these best ball drafts, like it gets really gross after like round 11, 12.
Yeah, there's certain cutoff points
once
in these drafts.
Once I take Denzel Perriman,
it's like that's the end.
That's the last linebacker you want. Like their LVE is interesting. Like some guys like that. Deion Jones is someone that's made, who knows, fine dart throws. But for the most part, like that's what you're looking at.
You're shopping in the bargain aisle, telling yourself, "I've got to get something here."
You're looking for these guys that can have bounce back years, right?
Exactly.
So linebackers. Pretty weird. Hopefully we get more value and everything comes into focus once these guys have landing spots. But yeah, it's going to be, I mean, this is another reason why you play IDP, just because the free agency is going to be so much fun.
Oh, so much fun. The offense is trash.
Offense is terrible.
It's really bad.
People
this
are
year.
like, oh, Allen Robinson, he's now the new wide receiver 2 in the class.
Jacoby Myers is the guy that everyone wants. I mean, that's grim.
I like Myers, but I mean,
come on.
That's the best we got to offer.
Homie's about to get mad overpaid.
Yeah.
So
good for him.
We'll have a preview show coming up for you all on Wednesday, I believe that's going to be dropping, and then we'll have the recap episode Monday. So the legal tampering period opens up Monday, and that's when most of these deals get signed. So we'll have a big reaction episode with some of the landing spots coming out of free agency and some of the impacts of that on existing guys, on the new guys getting signed, on, will they draft a rookie there or not? I mean, the pieces are starting to slot into place. The combine was a big piece. It helps kind of ramp us up toward draft season. And now as these free agents start to click into place, I think the picture is going to get a lot more clear, Addy. And we're going to be here to help you break it all down. But again, thank you all for listening. We will see you later this week. And until then, y'all take care.